So it's November 2022 and it doesn't look like the cost of living crisis is going to go away anytime soon in the UK. In this video I want to take you through some strategies that I use in order to still be able to afford kit, to enjoy my outdoor activities, and hopefully if you stick around to the end I'll be able to save you some cash too. Now the first strategy is just to make do and repair. Now there are two reasons you want to buy some kit. The first one is because the kit you already have is broken or worn down, and the second reason is you just fancy an upgrade to something maybe a bit lighter or something that's better suited to a particular situation. Now in the case of the first one, where it's broken or worn down, you can quite often give an old kit a whole new lease of life with a simple repair. Now one example of that is boots. Now you can resole a good pair of old boots for about £50 to £60, and if you've got boots that cost £200, then that is a great way of saving money. And it also has the advantage that your boots are already broken in, so you're getting a comfy pair of boots straight away without having to break them in again, which is a great thing. But it applies to other things too, so things like buckles, zips, seams, they can all be replaced relatively inexpensively. And even if you have to go to like a local seamstress because you can't do the work yourself, it's usually going to cost you like a few pounds. So for example, you could have a strap or a buckle replaced. I think the buckle will probably cost you £3 or £4, and then it's just going to a seamstress, and they will usually do it for between £5 and £10. So you can save a lot of money that way. Now if you just want an upgrade or something that's better or fancier, just ask yourself the question, can you just make do with what you've got? Because quite often you can do. There's always better kit, there's always a lighter rucksack or a lighter tent, but we can quite often just carry on with what we're using already. And as long as it's not stopping you from enjoying the outdoors, then that is a strategy you could use too. Another strategy you can use to save money is to purchase things at the right time of year. And what I've found over the years is you usually get the best sales and the best deals on items if you buy them in the opposite season for which they're intended. Now, for example, you can buy winter clothes in summer and summer clothes in winter, and that has paid off brilliantly for me over the years. Last year I bought myself a expedition parka, and that was reduced from £200 to £100, so you can make a fantastic saving doing that. One thing I recommend you do is just to start monitoring your favourite brands and working out what time of the year they have their best sales. Now it's not always as simple as you think, and everyone has like a January sale, for example. I'm a big fan of the brand Craghoppers, and particularly their trouser range, and what I found is the best sales for trousers with Craghoppers is generally now leading up to Christmas and the January sales rather than the January sales themselves. So what I always do at this time of year is I look to my wardrobe and I start planning ahead for what I'll need for the following year, and then I'll buy now because I can save quite a lot of money. And usually at this time of year I can get about 50% off, so you get some really good deals. Now I know other brands have some even bigger sales, so for example Mountain Warehouse quite often have 70% off, and Dare to Be, which is another good brand, they quite often you get really good deals on winter coats and waterproofs, up to about 70% off if you just get them in the right time of year. Another strategy you can use to save money is to buy military surplus. And military surplus I think is quite often underrated when it comes to outdoors. Just bear in mind, this stuff has been designed specifically to be used outdoors. It is quite often good value and is always robust, reliable kit. The thing about military surplus you need to be aware of is sometimes it's regarded as a little bit heavier, a little bit bulkier than the civilian versions, but not always, and there are some standout areas in military equipment which are just as good, if not better, than the civilian versions. So it's definitely worth looking into. Now one area I think that really stands out these days is military boots, because military boots over the last few years have been excellent, and they're easily on a par with what you can get in the civilian market, and usually the top end of the civilian market as well. Another strategy you can use to save money is to avoid the premium brands. Now yes, I agree, to a certain extent you do get what you pay for, but there are certain brands out there where you're definitely paying more for the label than you are for the quality of the product itself, while other brands just offer really good value and you're getting a really good product for the money. Now one of those brands I recommend is Decathlon, because Decathlon do a fantastic range. They break their ranges down by activity first of all, and then by intended use. So for example, whether it's for a beginner, an intermediate or advanced use. And I found that all of their ranges are absolutely fantastic so far. Now I've had things like rucksacks. I've had their 50-litre rucksack for walking, and that is a brilliant rucksack. It's very light, very well designed, it's got all the pockets you could possibly want, and it's just perfect for my needs. I've also had their gloves, the MT500 neoprene gloves, and they're my favourite gloves actually. I prefer those to my much more expensive sealskins, so I would highly recommend those as well. but their whole range has been really good, from footwear down to hats. I've had quite a few things from them, and you can save yourself a lot of money by using a brand like Decathlon. You can also save a lot of money by buying unbranded products, but when it comes to unbranded, I typically avoid anything unbranded that my life depended on. So for example, I'd never buy an unbranded parachute or climbing gear. But certain products have so few things to go wrong with them that actually there's nothing really to be lost by buying an unbranded one. So for example, if you're going to buy cooking utensils or a foam mat, there's so little to go wrong with those products, you may as well just save yourself the money and get something unbranded. If you really do want to buy premium products, one strategy you can use to get them cheaper is to buy second hand. Just be aware that certain products need to be cared for properly and stored properly, otherwise their quality and their performance will degrade over time. So for example, down sleeping bags, for example, need to be stored correctly, otherwise they're not as warm. But there are loads of products out there that you can buy. For example, I've seen some really good rucksacks, especially things like the Osprey, which are very, very expensive. And I've seen sort of rucksacks that are sort of £235 new. I've seen them going for around £50, £60 on eBay. So you can make some really good savings that way. Another strategy you can use, and you might not have thought of, is to simply rent the equipment that you need. And this is really suited where it's something that you wouldn't use very often, or maybe you want to try for a one-off. For example, if you're not into winter camping, you might not have a good enough sleeping bag, and you can actually rent something like a 4-season down sleeping bag designed for sort of winter conditions for about £13 for the week. Now that's a lot better than paying £200 out for a down sleeping bag that you might only use the once. So it's really good to sort of try new things, just to rent things as opposed to buy them and never use them again. I hope that was useful. And just remember, although there is all this designer outdoor gear out there, you don't need it to enjoy the outdoors. Being outdoors is one of the few things in the UK that is very cheap to do, and really it just takes your time and your energy to get outside and enjoy this beautiful country.